Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're coming back with Bretonnia, going to be taking on the foul Greenskins. So let's get to it. This is another game from the Flash tournament that I played in myself against King of the Dead, another game from the Finals series. This time I've taken Bretonnia, and King of the Dead's got the Greenskins, so let's get the lists. King Lewin Leon Kerr, of course, going to be leading the way for Bretonnia. He's got Foe Seeker, Stand Your Ground, the Lion's Shield, and the Sword of Corone, as well as the Ladies' Champion, of course, for the regeneration. We've also got 4 Peasant Mobs, Companions of Cornell over on the right side, as well as a Damsel Lore of Life, some Grail Knights, the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis over here, more Grail Knights, and then a nice back line of Knights of the Realm, with, of course, the Regiment of Renown, Knights of the Lion-Hearted. For the Greenskins, you can see he's got a mobile missile squad here, Mangy Marauders, Death Screepers, and another Spider Rider. Pretty good stuff. Over here, looks like we've got 2 Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, one of which is the Durkin Squigs. Honestly, not a terrible choice against Bretonnia, especially for where they're deployed in this nice Vanguard position. The rest of the army, King of the Dead's gone very heavy with the Gobos, so actually took Skarsnik the Unloved. Definitely not the best, but he does have anti-large AP as well as charge defense against large, so I understand the pick somewhat against Bretonnia. He's also got the lone orc in this list here, this orc shaman, who's got Here We Go and Foot of Gork. Foot of Gork definitely going to be good at stomping out cavalry if you can get them to hold still. A few nasty skulkers, 4 of them in line with some spider riders supporting. Looking pretty good there in an ambush position. Doom Diver Catapult with a single goblin defending, and then more Night Goblins back here with the Warlords boys and the 8 Peak Loonies, of course, as well. So, without further ado, let's get the battle underway. You can see we're going to be pushing up all across the board here. I couldn't see most of his army, so I knew that there were some sneaky goblin tricks here. Grail Knights, though, these Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, definitely not going to want to tangle with the Grail Knights unless they have the Wah active, and they don't get charged by the Grail Knights, otherwise they'll get completely destroyed. If they manage to, like, let's say right now, pop the Wah and then charge into the Grail Knights from the side, they could actually potentially get some pretty good work done, but Lewin coming down to start tying down these units here. He has the Lion Shield to tank out the damage, so he can come down, pin these guys in, and the Grail Knights here do hit their charge speed and manage to lance a few of those Wolf Riders. You can see the Mangy Marauders taking the brunt of that attack, and although the Mangy Marauders are immune to psychology, they don't get necessarily terrified here. They're going to get routed off, nonetheless, by the Grail Knights here, so already taking out a pretty valuable unit, not necessarily the most expensive, only 600 points, but still, nonetheless, a very valuable unit, especially for taking down Lewin. My opponent doesn't have a whole lot of answers for taking down Lewin himself, who's immediately just going to dive in. We're going to get going on these boys out on the side here. Over on this side, I believe I missed it. You can see there was a footprint here. King of the Dead had tried to catch me with the skulkers here. I didn't actually spot them in time, and he did have a Foot of Gork that just barely missed. Would have just completely stomped out this unit of Grail Knights had it made contact, but you can see Gork's footprint there where it took out a bunch of Gobos. A little bit unfortunate there. I wasn't able to dodge that, thankfully. But meanwhile, over here, just starting to roll up this big group of Night Goblins in the back. There's no anti-large or AP here. There is some armor sundering with the Warlords boys, of course, providing the armor sundering. It is going to bring, like, say, the Knights of the Realm, for example, down to 60 armor, but still, the Night Goblins won't trade great there. Squigs come to collapse on Peasants, which is totally fine by me. The Damsel's also in a little bit of a dangerous position, so we're going to start to bring her up and around, as well as dropping some healing. You can see regrowth going down on those Grail Knights to try and keep them in the fight here. Didn't want to just completely lose them out to this flank. We are just going to collapse everything onto this unit of Forest Goblin Spider Riders, at least these 2 units of Knights here. Unfortunately, the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis probably going to go down here, but they are my cheapest unit of cavalry, so not the biggest loss, but we do manage to take out those Spider Riders at the end of the day. Meanwhile, Skarsnik comes to drop a quick terror bomb on these goblins, who are having the battle of battles with the peasants here. You can see pitchforks and shovels and hammers doing pretty well for the peasants, honestly. They've got whole 5 kills, which is, you know, not terrible. Meanwhile, on the low ground, these Grail Knights are still alive critically, and they've been able to do quite a bit of damage in response. The Squig Hoppers are going to come and collapse on them, though, and should be shutting them down. Damsel, again, in a pretty dangerous position, but I go ahead and goon Skarsnik, and that's going to pull these Squig Hoppers over. The Orc Shaman also comes over, so Smoke Bomb being dropped, just all the debuffs and the massive Alpha Strike, at least as much as the Greenskins can muster at this point. The Sword of Crone lowering the armor and melee defense of all the units in this pocket. And Lewin, the fact that he has Stand Your Ground up means he's at 72 melee defense. He's going to take very little damage between his melee defense, armor, and the regeneration. So, yeah, rough stuff. You can see, looks like an itchy nuisance. Oh, Trixie Trap's actually going down there, potentially trying to give some extra speed as he pulls out. But, yeah, it's not going to be enough, unfortunately. You can see the bounce power is starting to tip. These Grail Knights still getting bogged down by goblins, and you know, the swarm on the Grail Knights definitely effective. Unfortunately, I just have so many cav. You can see Knights of the Lion Hearted overrunning into the Skulkers on the side here, and once Skarsnik starts to take enough damage that he gets terrified by Lewin, then it's going to pretty much be game, set, match for the Greenskins there. You can see the Squig Hoppers, though, doing a good job finishing off the last of those Grail Knights, then a nice rear charge coming in from the other unit of Grail Knights that's still perfectly healthy, well, more or less. Skarsnik, you can see, going to take a charge from Lewin here. And at this point, Skarsnik's been isolated from most of his forces here, so he should start to take a lot of damage from Lewin. Just overall, the Knights of Bretonnia pushing through super hard. Nasty Skulkers doing a great job. Another Smoke Bomb that catches pretty much all the units in this pocket. But at the same time, there's just not enough stopping power, and the Terror is going to terrify away these Nasty Skulkers before they can start to do a lot of damage. You can see only the Orc Shaman really holding his leadership together at this point. The Death Creep is firing in from the side, and some units starting to rally from the low ground, but it's just not going to quite be enough at the end of the day, especially with Skarsnik just getting gooned out hard here by Lewin. Companions of Cornell come in to also start dealing some damage. And, ooh, another really nice Foot of Gork there. Just stomps out the remainder of 2 Knights of the Realm. Gets some good kills there at the end. Unfortunately, not enough to bring the Greenskins back in the fight at this point. It's more or less going to be a cleanup operation. You can see the Damsel chasing down Skarsnik, and yeah, you know Skarsnik's just terrible when this happens here. And honestly, what you could do to improve Skarsnik, I've talked a little bit about this before, but I'll keep, you know, mentioning it whenever I get the opportunity, is number 1, to buff up either his melee defense or his weapon strength, preferably both. I mean, you got Gobla here. This guy should have at least 400, 450 weapon strength or so. He has charge defense against large, which is great, but I would also like to see him have in the area of about 70 melee defense, similar to someone like Tretch. I see him as kind of a similar character, you know, the sneaky schemes, betrayals, and all that jazz, at the same time needing to be able to tank damage. And the Greenskins don't really have an infantry tank lord. Grimgore I see as more of a damage-focused lord, which is why I think that you maybe give Skarsnik the good melee defense. I mean, obviously he doesn't have like the regeneration of someone like Vlad or Sigvald, but if he has high melee defense, at least he can still somewhat fill that role with some cool goblin tricks and traps added in with his other special abilities. Another really nice change would be to give Skarsnik Vanguard, so that you can take him with an all Vanguard goblin list. That would be a lot of fun as well, but overall, not the best lord. I mean, I do understand why King of the Dead brought him in this particular matchup. He does have the charge defense against large and the anti-large AP, but at the end of the day, just doesn't have enough punching power. Maybe if you buffed him up with something like Fists of Gork, which my opponent did not bring, which I definitely recommend in this matchup, not only because it gives magic damage, which means against the Grail tier units, anyone with Blessing of the Lady, which does include, coincidentally, Lewin himself, you're going to be getting that bonus magic damage, so you'll be bypassing the physical resistance, and of course the bonus to your combat stats is always welcome as well, especially on a heroic unit like Skarsnik, who's potentially going to be getting gooned there. So if my opponent had brought Fists of Gork and popped that on Skarsnik when Lewin went to dive him, Skarsnik actually probably would have done pretty well and maybe could have beat Lewin. It's unlikely, but I do think that the Fists of Gork would have definitely served well there. And I would definitely recommend picking it in this matchup. The Foot of Gork is nice on paper, and if you can get it to go off, it really does some extreme amount of damage. But you saw there by my opponent, he had the one Foot of Gork on the Grail Knights that whiffed pretty hard, ended up doing a bunch of friendly fire, and you know, the other one he had did get a direct hit, but at the end of the day, the match was already decided at that point. So I think, honestly, you get better value from spamming like Fists of Gork to give your melee units the punching power to be able to get the damage done that way. Overall, though, still a very fun game. Well played to King of the Dead. He did go on to win the series. I've showed one game already, the High Elves versus Beastmen game. I'm going to show this game as well. Unfortunately, I don't actually have the other two replays, so King of the Dead, if you happen to have them, go ahead and send them to me. I know we played a Dwarf versus Tomb Kings game, which I really wanted to show off his Tomb Kings build. I know he kind of considers himself a bit of a Tomb King main, so his build, his anti-dwarf build, was really good, and he did a great job using terrain to his advantage. Spoiler alert, he did win that match. I wanted to show it to you guys regardless, though, so if you're out there, King of the Dead, if you're listening, toss me that one. And the last one, I don't know that I necessarily need to show that one. It was Dark Elves versus Chaos, and basically I just got hard countered in terms of builds. I didn't bring any counter skirmish or anything to really counter the Marauder Horsemen, and he ended up bringing like 4 Marauder Horse Masters, I think 2 Marauder Horsemen Javelins, something like that. And I just didn't have any answer for it, and I cleaned up his infantry line really good. I almost killed his lord, but then at the end of the day he had a chariot, and he was able to neutralize my mobility and win that way. I probably am not going to show that battle off, but the Dwarf Tomb King game I definitely wanted to show off for sure. But this game was definitely a lot of fun. Fun picks from King of the Dead. I don't know that it's necessarily the most competitive army, but I definitely think that Nasty Skulkers are a pretty good unit against Bretonnia. You just don't want them to be taking the charge directly. The Night Goblins are a little bit more of a questionable pick. I would have probably traded them out. I mean, the 2 Regiment of Renown are pretty much an auto pick in every matchup, but I might have traded these guys down to be able to, say, upgrade these Squigga to Poor Boy Biggins, or maybe just trade them out for regular Biggins on foot, you know, like Orc Biggins, just to give you some extra anti-large punching power. I mean, the all-goblin thing is fun, but it's a little bit risky against Bretonnia just because the goblins don't have any anti-large, and so you don't really have a way to counter cavalry. But still, fun build nonetheless. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.